If you want to know the secrets of existence and the true meaning of life, I can't help you. But if you want some book recommendations, why not try reading the ones I wrote? If you're a fan of giant monster mayhem and anime weirdness, why not try Operation Red Dragon: The Daikaiju Wars Part 1? If horror is more your style, you can't go wrong with The Occult Mafia. Those who enjoy their fantasy with a dark twist may be interested in Emerald of Maddox City. And if you're interested in shared universes, why not read all three? Hop on down to the description for links to all 3 books on Amazon. Enjoy whichever ones you read, and enjoy the video. It was a day like any other day, except it was different. I'd been out of the game for a long time. Too long, in fact. Some major changes behind the scenes had forced me to hit the brakes. Now I had to get back on track, and I had just the way to do it, too. She would help me. Usually a story where the hero meets a leggy broad would end in heartbreak, but not this time. This time, she provided just the kick I needed.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the Omni viewer. Welcome to Genre Bender's Obscurities and Flawed Gems, where we look at the best stuff you've never heard of. I happen to be a big fan of pulp fiction, so I often find myself drawn to pulp homages, particularly in the realm of comic books.
Nothing against the more familiar superhero genre, despite its current rut caused by a whole host of different problems, but I just find that there's more style and substance to works that are rooted in pulp. I'll choose The Question over Batman any day of the week, happily revisit The Rocketeer frequently, and feel the thrill of seeing so many classic pulp heroes united in Dynamite's Masks crossover. Even if that book is severely flawed, but that's a subject for another time.
I'll be highlighting one of those today, a 4-issue limited series by Christopher Mills entitled Femme Noir: The Dark City Diaries, which has a little something for everyone.
Port City is located on the west coast of the United States, and it's a real cesspool. Organized crime, crooked cops, and mad scientists are just a few of the dangers you'll find in these squalid streets. Port needs a hero, and it comes in the form of a mysterious dame in some classy threads.
I knew from the moment I saw her that she was trouble, but I didn't know who she was. Come to think of it, I still don't know. Who is this Parallax exactly? Well, Snazzy, I suppose that's what you'd call a straightforward question with a non-answer.
Our woman of mystery has no official code name, and whenever someone asks, she ducks instead of answering, sometimes literally. Her name is not Femme Noir. That's the name of the book and nothing else. Same goes for the title of the first issue, Blonde Justice, though that would have worked in a pinch.
Well, we have to call her something, otherwise this review will get really tedious.
Don't I know it? For our purposes, we'll be calling her the Blonde, though I'd like to remind you all that's not her official name, because she doesn't have one.
As for her secret identity, that's even more complicated. The first issue is narrated by a news hawk who's pretty sure he's narrowed it down to 3 options. First, there's Vanessa DeMilo, daughter of a crime boss who got plugged by another vigilante named Brother Grimm. Next, there's Dahlia Blue, a club singer who had a personal investment in one of the Blonde's first capers, namely the framing of her roommate for murder. Last but not least is Laura Lai, ace reporter who has a real nose for the nastiest cases in town. The Blonde could be any one of these broads, but in the end, the answer probably isn't that important. What matters is that Port City needs a hero, and she fits the bill.
Femme Noir is an unconventional mix of tropes, both classic and modern.
If you want something that feels like classic pulp, it hits all the right notes, from the atmospheric visuals to the punny names of the characters.
Mills knows his stuff when it comes to both the genre and storytelling in general, so he knows what works and what doesn't.
Each issue embodies a different genre. Issue 1, Blonde Justice, is a pure pulp akin to the adventures of the Shadow and the Spider, mixing various genre elements as needed. Issue 2, Dead Man's Hand, is a grounded crime thriller with no fantastical elements to be found. Issue 3, Killer in Steel, is a mix of science fiction and horror akin to a Universal monster movie. Finally, Issue 4, Concrete Jungle, adds a splash of fantasy into the mix, though it could also be sci-fi depending on how you interpret it.
Each individual issue tells a self-contained story that moves faster than a getaway car.
Issue 1 is the introduction, which establishes that unconventional choice to leave the protagonist without a name or a secret identity.
That means we got us a mystery with no answer, like J.J. Abrams likes to play over at his joint. But don't worry, folks, this one isn't nearly as frustrating. It actually works.
Rather than throwing all sorts of contradictory evidence at the audience until settling on a solution that fails to satisfy, Femme Noir gives us 3 answers that are equally plausible, assures us that one of them is correct, but then says it doesn't really matter which one it is. Make up your own mind about which of these 3 women is dispatching vigilante justice in Port City, because in the end, she is who she is.
And no, this doesn't result in the blonde being a nobody, or a non-entity as the college boys would say.
She's one hard-as-nails dame who sometimes gets underestimated by her foes, and she won't hold back in a fight. She's not all about action, though. The blonde is a proper detective, searching for evidence and gathering testimony before she draws her pistols on anyone. This allows the comics to play out like proper mystery stories.
As mysteries go, they're not as complex as the stuff written by Doyle, Christie, or Chandler, and they're usually pretty easy for the reader to figure out. Still, that doesn't mean they're poorly written, and it's still intriguing to watch the blonde go about collecting evidence and putting the pieces together.
I know you said it doesn't matter, but you got any theories on who this chick is?
I suppose a little speculation couldn't hurt.
Personally, I think Laura Lai is the least likely candidate, as her story doesn't make much sense, even by comic book logic. Vanessa de Milo would seem like the most obvious candidate with her mob upbringing and tragic backstory, but she has a noticeable mole on her cheek that the blonde doesn't have, so she's not a physical match. That leaves Dahlia Blue, who is not only shown to have a detective's mind, but is also dating Lieutenant Rod Riley, one of the few good cops in Port City. That's a significant connection for a crime fighter to have. I find her to be the most intriguing candidate, so I'd put my money on her. But as I said, it ultimately doesn't matter who the blonde really is.
You know, someone ought to say something about the 2 major characters introduced in issues 3 and 4.
Killer in Steel features Vic Tobor, a 2-bit mug who has his mind downloaded into a mechanical body. Now virtually indestructible, Tobor serves as the blonde's most difficult opponent, and the tension that comes with figuring out how to stop him is palpable. Concrete Jungle brings in Okona, a character similar to Sheena and to a lesser extent Tarzan, who presents her own challenge in that, even though she's killing people, she may not actually be a villain. I won't spoil how that plays out, though. Oh, and for all of you giant monster fans out there, her primitive home is like a combination of Skull Island and Monster Island with some pretty nasty beasts on display, so that's another nice visual treat.
Now, as an average PI, I don't know much about fancy art, but I do know these comics are pretty nice to look at.
Joe Staton is credited with pencils on all 4 books, with various people filling in for inks and colors. The style is very reminiscent of Will Eisner's The Spirit in terms of atmosphere, though it's not quite as stylized. The shading in particular is perfect for the noir aesthetic, and it seamlessly incorporates the fantastical aspects of later issues, so everything feels like it all belongs in the same world.
As a series, Femme Noir is shorter than the leggy broad at its center, but that doesn't mean it's bad. It's got a little something for everyone. You like your high-concept strangeness or your down-to-earth mysteries? You're gonna find something in here to like. So it gets my recommendation. Till such time as we meet again, this is the Omni Viewer signing off. You don't think folks will be mad that we use terms like dame and broad in this video, do you?
Forget it, Omni. It's the internet. They've crucified people for less.
Ain't that the truth? Oh, this is fake, by the way. Don't smoke.
If you enjoyed what you just saw, hop on down to the description for links to Patreon, DeviantArt, and all of our social media, as well as links for Operation Red Dragon, The Daikaiju Wars Part 1, The Occult Mafia, and Emerald of Maddox City, 3 original novels I think you'll really enjoy. Thank you all, and we appreciate your support.